We are live. We are live.
I have selected it, but Sriram's question doesn't seem to appear. It still says start broadcast.
We've started.
Then it says, is anyone there?
Okay, I'm selecting Sriram's question.
Okay.
Oh.
There is some.
It's already selected.
Oh, it's selected.
Oh. Sriram, can you respond? Can you see us? Is there some technical glitch? It says live, so it should be.
Yeah, it should be live. Okay, so should we start in some way or the other? Because till people.
We can't start unless we know at least Sriram is here.
Yeah, we should at least have somebody.
If nobody can hear us, that will be a strange way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Now it says currently answering hello. Anyone here? Yes. Yes. Sriram, I hope you are able to see us.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a response saying yes. He can. All right. So we are on air.
Okay.
So how do we start? Shall we ask Sriram to ask questions? Or?
And anyone else who's there. Clearly, it's not showing the number of viewers correctly. Since we know we at least have one, it's showing 0 at the bottom. There might be more people.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be great if people could ask questions. But yeah, should we give like a minute?
Yeah. There are only 3 of us: me, Mohanan, and Jayashree, and Madhav. There are only 3 on this side. So Sriram's answer question is done. And maybe while people are thinking about questions, maybe we should ask them if the distinction between mathematical inquiry and scientific inquiry is clear for everybody, because there were some problems in the second trigger.
Yeah. There was some lack of clarity, which in the responses, and some people who didn't see the need for a distinction. Is there somebody who doesn't see the need? Because yeah, that would be an interesting thing to engage with.
Yeah. But I'm hoping that with our responses in the to the feedback on the submissions, it should be slightly better, but there might still be some degree of lack of clarity.
Yeah.
Let's see, there's no text on the right hand side, so we'll just wait.
Yeah, so if anybody else is there, you can ask questions on the right of the Hangout using the Q&A app. So you just type in the question. Apparently, there's a word limit, so if you need a character limit. So if you need to write a longer question, write it in one and write continued, and continue it in the other, in the next.
So who is organizing the Chennai meet, the one-day meet? Is it Sriram or is it you, Jayashree?
Sriram will help. There are only 4 people actually.
Yeah.
Who have registered.
We can actually meet in your kitchen. If you make strong coffee.
Yeah, strong coffee I can make, but not chili pakoras.
Oh, I can make it. It's okay. If you bring the chilies,
if you can eat what I make in the name of chili pakoras, that should be fine. I'll make you something. The definition will have to change.
I see. I mean chili in the sense of make Shimla mirch pakoras.
Ha.
Yeah, so if there's anybody else who's joined, please ask questions.
I have a feeling that even Sriram seems to be disconnected. I can't. Something has gone wrong.
No, it says there are it is fluctuates between 3 and 5 viewers. At the
Mine
bottom.
says only plus.
Where do you see that number of viewers?
On the bottom. You might not be able to see it, Jayashree.
Oh, I see. Okay.
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 Sriram has a question.
Okay, I don't see.
So Sriram says, let me begin here. I work in the field. Many practitioners in education, trainers, teachers, admin people seem to think theoreticians, in brackets professors, lack the field experience. Is there a gap? How do we deal with this and create a two-way flow of information and skills? You're the professor, Mo, so this is a question for you, I think.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm just a theoretician without any field experience. If the question is about school teaching, yes, my school teaching has been sporadic. I just do some workshops for students and so on. But I have been teaching tertiary students, undergraduate students, master's students, and PhD students for more than 30 years. So I do have field experience. I haven't taught primary school kids, that is true. I don't have field experience in that, but then it is also possible that people who have field experience in teaching primary school kids may not have field experience in tertiary stage. So we all have different kinds of field experiences. Some may have field experience teaching math, others may have field experience teaching history. We all have different kinds of field experience, and of course, the kinds of field experiences that we get may bias us in one way or the other. So those biases will have to be neutralized by the field experiences of different groups of people. That's the purpose of the group like this.
So I think, Sriram, the other part of the question seems to be taking stuff which people who think about education create and what educationalists create and giving it to the educators, that distinction, that gap. How do we bridge that gap between, say, you think about education, how do you get that material and the stuff which you've thought about to educators in the field?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't understand that.
No, so educationalists think about education. So you're an educationalist, you think about education. How do you bridge the gap between the people who think about education and the people who actually do education in the field?
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. So in a sense, like, let's say Sriram is probably describing the traditional way of doing things. There are people who write textbooks, and there are people who teach those textbooks, and they don't talk to each other. That's what you mean. The people with different kinds of experiences don't interact with each other to make it more useful, productive, etc. So there are people who set syllabuses, they don't talk to the others. There are people who set exam papers, they don't talk to the others. And nobody talks to teachers. Is that the kind of gap that Sriram is talking about?
I think so. So he is asking, how would you bridge that gap? If that's the gap. So Sriram, it would be great if.
Yeah. Sriram is asking, how do you define field?
No, that's Shriyanka.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, that is true. Oh, Shriyanka is asking Sriram, how do you define field?
Okay. Sharon's also here, but he can't join in the Hangout since Hangout doesn't work where he is. So.
But obviously.
Oh, but so Sharon, you can also look at view this Hangout directly on YouTube rather than watching it on.
But she's able to ask us say this, right? She says.
No, but that's, but that's on the Q&A and not on. So the
right. This means that Shireen is able to see us.
No. Is able to ask questions but not see us.
Oh, that means she cannot listen to the answers?
Yeah, she can't. So I'm going to send an email to everybody in the course in just a second. There's a YouTube link where you can watch the thing as well, rather than on Google Hangouts. But then you won't be able to ask questions if you watch it on YouTube.
There is something that Shreyanka is saying. She says, "Hi all at sister." I don't get it. Shreyanka, what is that? Are you addressing Jayashree? I'm confused. I'm going to select that one and ask the question. Did you want Jayashree to answer the question?
No, she wants to say hi only to me and not to you and mother.
Yeah, that's very discriminatory.
Gender biased.
I see. Okay.
So Sharon, I've sent an email to the course with a link to watch this on YouTube. So you won't have to don't need to watch it on Google Plus. Okay. So Sriram has replied to Shriyanka's question on how you define a field, but define field.
Yeah.
I'm assuming here we don't mean field as in a ring with division.
No, actually, this is closer to the concept of field in the sense of paddy field, where you do some work together. So field is an area where people get together and do some work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say that I do some work in phonology, which is sound systems of languages, and that constitutes a field, an academic field. So there are different kinds of fields. Working together, I guess, a group of people working together in some area, that area is called a field.
Shriyanka has a question. I don't really get what it is. It says meaning is often defined as contextual. In inquiry-driven process, when in a class you have different people from different regions, background, context, how do you account for the same? So, Shriyanka, I think the question depends on what you mean by meaning. If you mean meaning as in a definition of a term, that's not contextual. That's a definition. And then
something which is written below, I think it was for Sriram, in response to what Sriram has said. In response to Sriram's definition of field.
No. I think that was the sister.
Sister. No. Sister was the first one.
No, I think that.
And then.
Was But yeah, so meaning is now. If you mean meaning by meaning you mean definition, then it's not contextual. I don't see how in what way a meaning of a word would be contextual, a definition. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. If you could be a little clearer about what you mean by this, that would be great. So one of the things which we had mentioned a few minutes ago was, has everybody got the distinction between mathematical and scientific inquiry, and does anyone feel the need for not having the distinction? Because there were a lot of responses to the second trigger where people thought that this is not a distinction worth having between scientific and mathematical inquiry. Why not just talk about inquiry, something of that sort? So is there someone who still wants to bring that up? Because that would be an interesting discussion.
We could also extend that to the issue: do we need to distinguish between scientific inquiry and humanistic inquiry, and philosophical inquiry, literary inquiry, and so on? Can't we just say inquiry for all of them?
Yeah, and within scientific inquiry for scientific study building and experimental inquiry and. Oh, so Shriyanka has replied about the meaning thing. So she's saying not definition, but if red is danger for you, I'm guessing red signifies danger for you and signifies sacred for somebody else.
Okay. So all that it means is really that there are some individual meanings for any word, right? So for example, take the word evening. There is a kind of general agreement. Evening refers to sometime later in the day. But in India, if you say evening, it means up to sunset. In US, evening can extend up to the time when you go to sleep. So in that sense, there are different meanings for the same word for different people, but we are able to communicate because we share a common core. So
and I think you have to spend time in the classroom coming to the shared to coming to a shared definition for a particular term before you can actually have a discussion on it. Otherwise, you have discussions like you have on TV news channels where people scream and shout at each other just using the same word in different ways.
So here's an example actually. Once in a classroom, I asked a question of somebody torturing cats as a hobby and said, is that activity morally good, morally bad, or morally neutral? And students said morally neutral. And I was very surprised by that. And it turned out that they were using the word moral to mean sexual morality. The codes and whatever moral codes of sexual morality is all that they had in mind when they said moral, because that's what they learned from their school, I think. So when I say moral, I mean the right thing to do. They immediately said no, it is immoral to torture cats. I think there is a word in Sanskrit, sadach, or in many Indian languages perhaps sadachar. And sadachar is quite often interpreted as, codes of sexual conduct. So those things can happen. It's just a question of clarifying what you mean. Words are ambiguous, words are synonymous, and so on. Many ways. Sometimes we use two different words for the same thing. There is some amount of confusion. Those can be overcome.
Okay, Sriram has a question. One issue we face is the forced multi-grade teaching for which teachers are not trained, nor are textbooks available for the scenario which is so common. Can we get a teacher to address different age group children, perhaps at different levels?
See, you do have, huh?
Yeah, just
outside my range. Go ahead.
In some these things like the multi-grade thing, I think it's because of teacher shortage. Like you don't have as many teachers as you need to handle a class each, so it's kind of forced on the teachers, this multi-grade reality. So in a way to handle that, in the primary sections, many governments have introduced a certain pedagogy which will accommodate this multi-grade reality, and some of the elite schools, even KFI, they have got this multi-grade grouping where they make 5, 6 and 7 sit together. They are not bound to do that, and there it's not because of teacher shortage or anything, but they see benefits in such a pedagogy. When you have multiple levels of children sitting together, they intend to harness the interactions between students to make learning happen.
So it's not necessarily, you're saying it is not necessarily that of age group, but multiple abilities. So people who have better understanding of something can help others and so on.
Yeah. But often what happens is even your Montessori, this thing is a multi-grade thing, right? You say the elementary thing is from up to 6 years of age, then you have a 6 to 12 group, then you have a 12 to 15 group or whatever. So in these cases, what happens is that they don't have a thing like in 5th standard you learn this, in 6th standard you learn this. They don't have a textbook which says ki 5th standard you cover this and 6th standard you cover this. But in our schools, unfortunately, what is happening is that they take a year-wise curriculum plus a multi-grade situation, which is leading to chaos. it's not that the teachers are not trained. The bigger problem is that even the curriculum is not set for a multi-grade this thing. You can't have a multi-grade classroom and say that 5th standard students learn this, 6th standard students learn this, and 7th standard students learn this.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay.
That's some content stuff. That would be impossible in the same class.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you mention it, it suddenly occurred to me that the course that I'm teaching at IIE is actually multi-grade. There's a course in research. There are first-year undergraduate students. There are also PhD students. The entire range. But that by itself doesn't create a problem, because some first-year students can teach PhD students.
So Sharon seems to have been able to access us. So she has a question. Shriyanka, do you mean how one might struggle to accommodate all types of learners in a mixed ability classroom? One second. Oh, this was a reply to Shriyanka. Okay. So do we want to take this? I think this is what we've already just responded to this question.
Yeah, we have talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now Sriram has a question. Now once again, I think this is in response. Akanksha has a question. In a big class with students from varied background, I'm not sure how we can have this.
Sorry, what did you say about Sriram's question? AF1.
Sriram has made a comment. KFI, I'm quite familiar. They have not cracked it. The multi-grade thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Akanksha's question is, in a big class with students from varied backgrounds, I seem to have lost someone. Background. I'm not sure how we can
have this kind of interactive teaching.
Oh, I think by interactive teaching, Akanksha means teacher-student interaction.
Okay. Okay.
There can also be student-student interaction. So the student-student interaction will actually result in peer learning when you have mixed abilities.
Mixed abilities, varied background, and in fact, large classes also you can have student learn.
And even the task that you assign, it can be assigned that you include students of different levels.
Yeah. So if it requires activity outside the classroom, the first thing that you say is try to understand or try to work it out on your own. Then you help get the help of your classmates. So that gives you the peer learning strategy.
Yeah. You probably will have to give more lectures in a larger classroom if you have 200 people than you would in a smaller classroom, but that doesn't mean that you won't have any interactivity. You can have some level of interactivity.
Yeah.
You can have some level of interactivity in an online course with 10,000 people. So for sure, you can have some level of interactivity in a classroom with 200 people.
So Shireen says, so this is like buddy learning. Yes, it is buddy learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
About Madhav, the question that you asked, that it looks like most people now begin to see the distinction between mathematical and scientific inquiries.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. Any more questions? Anyone? Anything?
How many are there altogether in this Hangout?
It keeps fluctuating between 4 and 8.
Okay. So some connection problems. We have seen only 4 people, so we haven't actually figured out.
And this is not including the people who are on YouTube, who are watching us on YouTube, because that's a different audience.
Oh, I see.
It doesn't show in this.
Oh, I see. They are not able to ask. They are only able to watch on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah. So often, Sriram has a question. Often one gets the feeling that entire education system exists for its own perpetuity.
Yes.
I kind of agree. How does it change? Not if some models are exhibited or proven for sure. How has it changed elsewhere? Yeah, I agree, I think, broadly.
I agree that once a system comes into existence, it perpetuates itself. It's like a biological, species. The only thing that it wants to do is to reproduce itself somehow or other, and it will resist all attempts to change. Now, whether or not it has changed elsewhere, I don't know about quite often education systems change because of the need to change. And I think it's kind of like saying that when camera came, painter styles changed because you didn't want to compete with the camera. We are, I think, in that kind of situation now where any transmission of knowledge can be much more easily done through the internet and print. You don't need teachers for that. Teachers are needed only when a student asks a question after having read or watched some video. So very soon, I think people will discover that teachers can be, if teachers are simply reproducing knowledge,
Yeah.
they will no longer be needed.
Hmm.
So teachers have to do something else, some other function. That perhaps will change the nature of teaching. This is how biological systems change.
Yeah. So Shriyanka has asked, on the forum you talked about studentless lectures. Have you experienced more questions post the consumption of that content? Or we've just had the first few.
This is just the very first one. I haven't actually released it to students themselves.
Yeah, but there is precedence for this. If you look at Norman Wildberger's YouTube channel, he's a mathematician in Australia. He gives lectures to studentless classrooms, and they're fantastic. And the sort of YouTube, even on YouTube, sort of comments which come below are very, very interesting.
I usually get comments. In fact, I'm trying to minimize students' questions because the way I feel is they don't allow me to do anything that I want to do. They take me where they want to take me. So I get the feeling that my class sessions are actually completely at the mercy of students.
And they're at the mercy of the students in the class at that point. So if your audience is larger than the class at that point, which it is if you're putting it on YouTube, then it's going to be, then you have to these things I think will work better in the long run than having students ask questions.
Yeah. So there'll be some structure in spite of the democracy in the classroom. Who is asking this question? Shireen, you cannot say, I think, sir. The word sir is ruled out in this. What happened? Yeah. Let me put that question up. Yes, I think, sir. You cannot use the word sir to any of us. What you're talking about right now, the realization that the role of teachers are changing is behind ideas like flipped classroom. Yes, some people are using flipped classroom, but I'm saying something more than that. That is, even flipped classrooms of the kind that I have seen are being used for content transmission. Students can get the content now from print media and multimedia.
They don't even need to discuss that with teachers. The teachers need to be there to give them the ability to be able to understand that content, and to be able to be able to understand any content, not particular pieces of content, and to be able to critically evaluate that content. Oh, Sriram's asking what's the name of the mathematician I mentioned. It's Norman Wildberger. You'll be able to find the stuff on YouTube. I'll put the link on the Think website in the on the course page, where we put all the recommended resources already. So you'll be able to see it there.
Shireen says, I think we can also try different grouping strategies depending on the learning focus. Yes, of course. And then she keeps saying reflex. That I didn't understand.
For the sir.
Oh, sir.
Oh, what does reflex mean? Oh, okay.
It's reflex thing. It's not true.
All right. It's like you throw some ball at somebody, that person catches it without thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can call Mo ma'am. That's acceptable.
Yeah, that should be okay. Calling Jayashree sir may not be so odd, because I used to call my aunt sir in school. Because in Kerala, I think you can use the word sir to refer to women.
It's not in Kerala alone. I think all over India.
Really? I see.
Okay. So Jayashree seems to be stuck in one place, but
Huh?
her screen seems to be frozen. I don't know.
Jayashree. Oh,
But
yeah.
unless she's keeping that pose. But Shriyanka's question, did you see that? The
Yeah.
student class, my question is part of a larger thought. Is questioning, when not used judicially, risking being anti-inquiry? When it's not thought through, uh, can questioning be anti-inquiry?
Well, any strategy can be actually unproductive, right? So if you ask students to talk, they might start talking endlessly without listening. If you ask students to ask questions, they might start asking questions for its own sake. So I've seen people just asking repeatedly why, without any thought. It's as a mechanical operation. Yes. So anything can be reduced to a meaningless recipe. That's true. But I think by and large, most students, when they have some experience of inquiry, after about a semester or so, they begin to understand how to use it. So I haven't seen any problems of that kind, except some rare cases, 1 out of 100.
Yeah, Jayashree seems to have left, but hopefully she'll come back soon.
Oh.
I'm guessing she had internet problems.
Okay.
Anuradha Sridhar has a question. When we speak about flipped classrooms, are we talking about content and concept completely new to the students, or content and concept which they have prior knowledge about?
It can be both, right?
Yeah, either way. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like Intro to Calculus can be completely new, but intermediate calculus can be with some prior background. The flipped classroom doesn't make a difference between these two.
So Kamla has a comment saying children love to know if what they have understood is correct. I think we kind of want to move away from that.
That's right. They have to decide whether the notions of correctness, they should make the decision, not the teacher.
Yeah, the teacher shouldn't be the authority saying that this is correct and this is incorrect. It should be this teachers should help the students to get the tools to be able to make that decision themselves.
Yeah, and at some point the student should be able to convince the teacher was wrong. That is when education really is successful.
No.
Why? Okay. I saw a Think logo for a fraction of a second on the screen. I was surprised.
Oh, I wonder what's happened to Jayashree. Maybe.
Yeah, what happened to Jayashree?
Maybe some electricity stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, any more questions, anyone?
So I noticed that most of the people who are here in this Hangout are also people who are interacting in the discussion forums.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder about the people who are not saying anything in the discussion forum or here. So there's a question from Jam. Often in science, at school level, we have inquiries from students leading to a situation where it becomes too complex for them to understand. How do we continue to sustain their curiosity despite the dead end? Or you will understand this later. I think you will have to say at some point you will understand this later. So in my class yesterday, 3 days ago, I think, people were asking me about black holes and black body radiation. They just want to know they get some words from here and there. They ask you questions about that. So you have to make some kind of balance between answering the question or saying, we will deal with it later, or better still, I'll send you an email website from which you can find out on your own without my having to tell them about these things. In large number of cases, initially from beginning students, people who are not used to inquiry, questions are, I want to understand X. And the answer to that will be, response to that will be, you can understand X if you go to such and such book, such and such website. That's it. There is no need for the teacher to do that.
Sharon has a comment. I think most kids find it terribly difficult to handle impulses. Sorry, one second. But handle impulses, as in asking a question the moment it arises without waiting for reflection. But they can be trained to delay gratification starting early.
Yeah, I think if you start early, this can be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen actually primary school kids engaging in philosophical discussion, sitting in a circle and behaving like, far better than 30-year-old adults. So it is just a question of getting into the right kind of culture and a kind of academic culture where not everybody shouts out the answer, not everybody asks a question at the same time. Yeah, it's a question of getting used to it.
Akanksha has a question. Most of the times in regular teaching, maintaining an appropriate speed becomes difficult. The few good people would be responding fast and they tend to get bored. When you wait for others to reach there. So that's, I guess, yeah, if it's content you're talking about, that's probably true. In the sense in some areas in school, I think all of us have this probably this memory of being really bored by what's happening. But if your goals are different, your goals are either real understanding or real or some level of critical thinking, etc., then student interaction and getting the students who understood it to explain it to others, to have to get questioned by others on their understanding would be quite useful, I would expect.
Yeah, I would also add that the trick lies in using student-student interaction. So if you ask a question and if you let somebody answer immediately, then a lot of people will be left behind. But if you give them a few minutes, let's say 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and use that time for students to talk to one another, then everybody gets a chance, everybody gets time to reflect and work through and discuss, and then we discuss it in the whole class. That way, the kind of problem that you raised can be minimized.
Sharon has a comment. KPM, I agree, kids are super smart. It's much better to never censor access to information or literature. I guess IMO is in my opinion, or
Okay.
International Mathematical Olympiad.
I didn't understand IMO. Okay, now I understand it. Yeah.
I think so. If it's not disturbing or graphic in nature, they figure out if it's too complicated for themselves and generally self-regulate.
Yeah, that's my attitude too. Yeah.
Some things which are disturbing or graphic in nature are also fine.
But for very young kids, very young people. So, for example, there was a movie that we were watching with our granddaughter, and there was some violence, and she's only 3 years old.
Yeah.
When somebody's 3 years old, I think it's important to protect them.
Yeah. No, at that age. But if you're talking about like a 10th, 11th grader.
No, I think, yeah.
By that time, you give them some level.
That they might need, even 10-year-olds will be something like protection from Hindi movies, which are pretty terrible. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can wait a couple of minutes, otherwise we could probably
completely disappear.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but let's wait a couple of minutes. If there aren't any more questions, we can end it. It's been So I think maybe more for the benefit of others who haven't come for this, it might actually be worth spending a couple of minutes on mathematical versus scientific inquiry, because actually from the people who seem to be here, that these questions weren't there, but the questions came from others. So if they end up watching,
that's possible. Yeah. How do you put it? The only way that actually this distinction can be really understood is to work through both forms of inquiry and see the kinds of freedom and lack of freedom in both, to see that they are different. So a question such as, is it true that, this is something that we have mentioned, is it true that every adult human being has exactly one heart? There is no way you can answer this question in terms of mathematical inquiry, or at least in any meaningful mathematical inquiry. For that, you have to observe the world and see that every adult human being that you have in your sample has exactly one heart. In math, you don't have to observe the world. You prove things from axioms and definitions. You create your own world. After creating your own world, you can show that certain things are true about that world, certain things are not true about that world. You have the freedom. So depending upon how you create your world, the truth depends upon that world. That is not the case in science. The truth depends upon this particular world that we live in, and somebody else can show that your statements about the world are wrong. That's not the case in math.
Yeah.
I think other than saying this, it is very hard to experience.
Yeah, no, I think they'll get a better idea after 2 or 3 more learning triggers.
Yeah.
But even then, it'll be a very, very sketchy idea. Because I think 2 triggers, learning trigger 4 will be mathematical inquiry. But even there, you're not going to really be doing mathematical theory building. That's not going to happen at all this semester. I don't think we'll be able to do that even till the end.
My sense is by the time we are into the second semester, there'll be a better understanding of the distinction.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and then the scientific theory construction and the difference between, we will be working a bit on scientific theory construction in this first bit later. There are now a couple of questions. One, Sriram is leaving. Okay, so we'll see you next time, Sriram, and we'll see you in Chennai.
Question: from your experience, would you apply an inquiry-led approach different if you were teaching a subject that is familiar to students versus somewhat that is? You will have to adjust the learning tasks if the subject is already known to students. So a nice example would be, students know the words and sentences of heliocentric theory. They have been told that the Earth spins, that the Earth revolves around the sun, and the spin is at an angle to the plane of revolution. These are words that they know. But does that mean they understand the words? No. So if you ask them to come up with a theoretical proposal, they might repeat the words that they know. So rather than doing that, an inquiry into the heliocentric theory will ask them to connect mini theories within the large theory. So how do you construct a theory of seasons given certain facts? This they will not be able to do. And by and large, that is the case in just about every theory that students learn. Students learn the words of evolutionary theory, but they don't know how to connect the theory to the predictions. So if you ask them to explain such and such, not explained in the text, they are in trouble. That's the only minor adjustment that you have to make.
So Sharon says, I wish differentiation strategies were something that teachers are trained in. That will go a long way towards managing a multiple ability classroom. Managing is a bad word, I guess. Reach all kids is what she means.
Yes, yeah, but to some extent, these are all kind of individuality, personality traits. Some people have a hang of it, some people may not. So I find that I myself, I'm not good at that, because I tend to treat a classroom as a system rather than
individuals. Yeah,
different individuals. Tara sees every student as an individual, and this is just a personality difference. and some skills of humans in dealing with other humans.
Yeah, some of these it can be improved, I guess, over time if you with practice, etc. So, but yeah.
But I don't know if these are amenable to training, because there is a limit to the kind of training that you can provide to teachers. Most of it, I think, they'll have to pick up on their own or by observing other people. If teachers were observing other teachers, a great deal of teacher education can be just from that. I think when I look back, I learned most of my teaching skills from other teachers. My own teachers, my colleagues, sometimes from my students.
Okay, so I guess we can end here. Yeah. Okay, so let's end the Hangout for this time. I guess next week, probably the same time. And the sessions, the meetup sessions in Pune is actually next Sunday.
Next Sunday we won't have a Hangout session.
We won't be able to have a Hangout session, so we can do it the week after, possibly. So let's.
Wait a minute, week after is
in Delhi.
Yeah, but then.
Yeah, we may have some problems in September because September is full of these. Week after that is in Delhi, right?
Week after, we can do it in Delhi.
Okay, let's see.
If we have, if we not
coming to the meeting.
No, because that meeting is on Saturday.
Delhi meeting is on Saturday. That is true.
The week after, it's not possible because it's the Bangalore. You will be in Bangalore.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess we'll probably see you 2 weeks from now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Jeshri's back.
Just back.
What happened? Done, huh? We are done.
We just excommunicate you.